In this lesson, we'll add subscriptions to our Rails app. At the moment, sellers can sell their products for free, but let's say we want to offer certain special features to sellers for a monthly subscription fee. We'll keep the features simple here. Pro sellers will get highlighted products on the products page, and we'll also show a Pro badge next to the seller's name on the product page. Now, you could add more complex features or put any features behind the subscription paywall, say limiting the number of products a seller can sell on the free plan and then unlimited products on the paid plan. But the main point of this lesson is to learn how to set up subscriptions with Stripe and Rails. So let's go ahead and I'm going to first log in as a seller account. And then let's first start by generating the subscription scaffold. We want to create the subscription model, controllers, and corresponding views. So we'll just run Rails generate scaffold subscription. And then let's start by modifying the migration file. So this one, where we create the subscriptions table, I'm just going to paste in a few more fields that we want to add to this table. First of all, we want to have a relation to the users table. We're adding key.references user. We also want to store a Stripe subscription ID, which is the subscription ID that Stripe will send us when we create the subscription. There's a Stripe customer ID. We'll have a status field, a plan name, the amount paid for that subscription, a current start period and end period, and then a date time for cancel that. We'll also need one other migration. So let's create that. We'll say Rails generate migration, add Stripe customer ID to user. And this is for storing the Stripe customer ID on our users table. This will make it easy to connect the user in our database to the Stripe customer when we receive the subscription webhook. We'll look at that in a bit more detail later on. Okay, now let's go ahead and run both these migrations with Rails DB migrate. Great, so those tables are all set up now. Now we can go ahead and set up the page where a seller can sign up for a new subscription. So in routes.rb, you can see we already have resources subscription set up. So we're just going to use the /subscription/new page to set up our sales page. And here I'm going to just open that new.html.erb file, and I'm going to replace this scaffold generated code with some HTML, which shows a small sales page. So it says upgrade to a pro seller account, and it lists all the benefits that a seller would get. Like I mentioned earlier, in this example, we're only going to do the first feature where we show a pro badge. Now let's go ahead and update this submit button. So here we have button to upgrade to pro. So we need to add a path here where that form will get submitted. So we'll say subscriptions path. So this will send a post request to create a new subscription. And then let's go ahead and set that up properly in the subscriptions controller. Let's start by getting rid of the actions that we don't need. So we don't need the edit action. We don't need update. We will use show, new, create, and destroy. And then first of all, let's require the user to be logged in before they can do any of these actions. So we'll add a before action filter, authenticate user. And then let's go ahead and update the create action. I'm just going to paste in some code for creating the structure of the Stripe checkout session. When the user submits this form on the new page, we're going to create a Stripe checkout session. But notice the details are missing, so let's fill those in one by one. First of all, we're going to add a customer. So here we need to pass a Stripe customer ID, which will pass as current user.stripe customer ID. And this is something we need to set up, and we will do in a minute. If you remember, when we did the product in the cart checkout, we were using the current user's email. We were passing customer email and not a customer ID. The reason we are using a customer ID here instead is because the Stripe webhook for subscriptions only returns a customer ID. It doesn't return the customer email when we get the webhook notification. And that makes it a little bit harder to tie the Stripe customer to our user. We'd need to make one extra API call to Stripe to get the customer. So here, by using the Stripe customer ID, we can directly connect the Stripe customer with the user in our database. Next, in line items, we're going to need one price for a Stripe subscription plan product. And that's something we're going to now create on the Rails console. So let's switch to the console here, and I'm going to run subscription equals Stripe product.create, and we'll give it a name of Pro Seller Subscription. You can do this on the Stripe dashboard as well on the web, but we're just going to do it on the Rails console here. And then if you look at this object that Stripe returns, you can see it's a product that's created inside Stripe. And then for this product, we need to create a price. So we say price equals Stripe price.create, and we pass it the product that we just created. So we say product subscription.id, unit amount. This is the price of the monthly plan. Let's say we're going to call it $49. So we pass the value in cents. So 4,900, currency USD, recurring. And so you can set different intervals. Stripe allows you some flexibility on how often the plan recurs. So we could say weekly or annual, but we're just going to do month. Keep it simple. And then we run that and we get back this price object from Stripe. And this ID here, this price ID, is what we're going to use to create a Stripe checkout session in the line item. I'm just going to paste this in here. Now we're hard coding this price ID here. Of course, like we did for the other checkout session commands, you can move it to an environment variable, or when you have multiple price plans, you might want to then create a separate model to reflect that and then save these values in the database. But for now, we can keep things simple. We're only going to have one subscription plan for sellers, so I'm just going to paste it in here. And the rest of the details in the checkout session look fine. We have a success URL for the homepage, and cancel URL brings them back to the new subscription page. Okay, so now how about this Stripe customer ID? Where are we going to get that from? Just before we create the checkout session, let's run current user.setup Stripe customer. This is a new method we'll define, which, as the name suggests, is going to set up a Stripe customer for this user. So let's switch over to the user model. And here we'll say def setup Stripe customer. And first, we're going to check if the user already has a Stripe customer ID and do an early return. So we can say return if Stripe customer ID.present. If the user already has a Stripe customer ID, we're just going to use that. We're not going to create another one. But if they don't, then we continue and we say customer equals Stripe customer.create email. So we just pass the current user's email ID, and Stripe will create a customer based on that. And then we update the user record with that Stripe customer ID that's returned from calling that. So we say update Stripe customer ID customer.id. So when you run Stripe customer.create, Stripe returns a customer object, and we use the ID for that to update the user's Stripe customer ID. And that's everything we need to set up the Stripe subscription. Now let's have a quick run in the browser to test it. So here, let's reload the page. And when I click on upgrade to Pro, the Stripe checkout session is created and we are taken to the checkout page. And here you can see subscribe to Pro Seller Subscription, $49 per month. And the email is set to the current user's email.